Hello again, this is Superintendent Don Vanderholm, and I am here today to share with you some back to school updates. I want to get started by reminding you that we have been working as a team, a large stakeholder team of 40 members comprised of students, staff, parents, community members, and administrators, and that we have been looking at the possibilities for around the state and making determinations that fit us best here locally. And while I'm still optimistic that we will be able to open our doors on August 31st, the situation in the state and our county is not good at this time. The numbers are going the wrong direction. We're certainly hoping for a turnaround in those numbers, but I just want to throw it out there that there is a possibility we'll have some decisions made that will affect our opening plans. However, I'm prepared today to share with you some of the components of our plan that we feel are flexible enough that no matter what changes may be brought to us by the state or the county, we will be able to proceed when the time comes to open our doors. So let's get into a review of some of those same components that we're working with in our contingency planning. Nothing really has changed as far as health and safety goes. We're continuing to work to make that a top priority for everyone. It really is center to a lot of our planning efforts. We continue to make plans to support the emotional health of our students and staff. And we are continuing to work on planning for multiple situations and all aspects of learning. We appreciate your feedback on the survey, and it's become apparent that we do have a number of you who are interested in remote learning options, so we continue to work on that. But as I mentioned, those start of the year, there's some variables that we may have to work through. We're still looking at 3 types of virtual learning: distance learning, remote learning, and continuous learning. Again, nothing's really changed on these. We know we'll have a variety of attendance needs that we need to prepare for. In the area of remote learning, a little bit more information on this, since a number of you have indicated an interest in this, and there may be others. We want you to know that we are not talking about throwing something together ourselves and making up an online learning program. There are companies out there we've worked with before, and we are impressed with what they have to offer. These are professional online learning companies. The one we've been using is Edgenuity. We believe it's a good fit for our students. And the nice thing about this versus WAVA or a K-12 program is that we can customize this to fit our students and our classrooms. In this program, students have the opportunity to engage in video lessons with test out options that will progress you on to the next learning or next modules. And so it can be very self-paced. Our educators on our end can look at that broad content and they can select those units that best fit our classes here and narrow down the content so that it is more achievable for our students and is more practical in terms of transitioning back into regular high school or middle school. And of course, should we need to go to continuous learning 2.0, we will continue to work for that to be a much more high quality experience. And we appreciated your feedback on that as well in the survey. It's going to give us some information that will really help us in planning for the next round of continuous learning, if and when it happens. And now, here are some exciting changes. I realize you are probably hearing all kinds of plans out there. You may have heard today that the school districts in the Puget Sound area have announced they will be starting the year all virtually. You've likely heard that the Washington Interscholastic Athletic Association has announced changes to the seasons, and including adding a 4th sports season and adjusting which sports play when. Whatever we do, we know needs to work for us. So we want to make our planning process, our schedules, our calendars fit Lind-Ritzville Cooperative Schools, and that's what we're doing. So we're going to talk about changes to the calendar and changes to the weekly schedule and daily schedule. We want to be fully prepared for the start of the school year. And when we consider the time and effort it's going to take to complete health and safety training, daily health checks and screenings, and meeting the requirements of contact limitations and classroom sanitation. It really makes sense to adjust our calendar and schedules now because we need to provide additional time. Those first 2 weeks of the school year, we are planning for those to be half days. During those half days in the mornings, we want to reserve that time for parent and student communication contact to include safety training, grade level transitions, orientations, social, emotional, and learning gap screenings that the state is requiring us to complete, student walkthroughs, learning preparation, establishing our mentoring programs, and addressing any scheduling needs we have at the middle school and high school. We also need to have time to orientate those students who want to be remote learners, and probably more. We'll have designated groups of students on campus on certain days so they can do student walkthroughs. The other half of the day in the afternoon, our staff are going to be engaged in much needed collaboration, professional development, training, instructional planning for this very different school year. Regardless of when on-campus learning begins, let's say the state or the county delay us, we will start our school year with this plan. So let's say we start out virtually and on September 30th, we start on-campus learning. We will still use this 2-week half-day schedule so we can be prepared to be up and running. Then just to the calendar overall, we're going to designate our 4 conference days as possible makeup days, and then add 6 additional days to the end of the calendar, giving us a total of 10 possible makeup days, which we hope we won't need, but we'd rather have you prepared. And for that, in case we need it, that would, if we used them all and had to use them all, that would put us out to June 18th. So now let's talk about the weekly schedule. I'm going to call this a modified 4-to-1 schedule. We'll have 4 days of all day, Monday through Thursday, all students in on-campus learning. The other day, which will be a half day on Friday, all students will be in distance learning from 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. On Friday, students will engage in distance learning through some prearranged learning options that will include recordings or other arrangements that teachers have made. The nice thing about this distance learning option is before students leave on Thursday, they can be prepared for what they're going to do on Friday. Those wishing to further reduce on-campus learning days for their student or students, you can do that. We just ask that you work with your schools on a personalized schedule. We'd like that to be consistent. Let's say your student is going to come in on Monday, Wednesdays, and those are the only 2 days you'd like them to be on campus, then we'd like to stay consistently with Monday, Wednesday until such time when you decide to increase that. And we probably want to also make sure we can balance that out within a classroom so that not everybody who only wants to be there on a 2-day-a-week schedule is gone on Mondays and Wednesdays. The reason why we want to have this half day is we really need, again, some time. We need time for deep cleaning our schools and our school buses, and we need time for collaboration and planning so we can continue to provide the best distance virtual learning models that we can. It's asking a great deal of our teachers to do all they normally do with live instruction, and then on top of that to ask them to provide distance learning. We know it's important we provide that, and we feel that if we can provide our teachers the time, they'll be able to do a great job in that. Finally, the daily schedule. We expect our elementary schedules to run as routinely as possible while meeting distancing requirements and minimizing group contact. So there'll be some changes, but they should be pretty close to what a student might normally see at the elementary. At the middle school, high school, we're going to use a 4-period day. Health checks and screenings will necessitate we have a staggered start time. Lunchtime distancing is going to lengthen lunchtime. Cleaning between classes and even transportation are all going to cut into our learning time. If we were to stay with a regular 7-period day, we would have classes that ran maybe 30, 35 minutes long, which is almost a no learning schedule. We simply can't have that for our students. So we believe that a 4-period day is the best model for us to provide some consistent learning time. And while in a traditional 4-period day, you'd be looking at a 90-minute period, by the time we back out the time requirements that I've mentioned, we're probably looking more of a 70 to 80-minute period. Now, we don't want to change the 7-period course schedule. Students have already signed up for those 7 classes. We're simply adding period 8, what we're going to call an advisory. So here's what this would look like. You're on an A-B rotation, A day, B day schedule. But again, this is all students every day. We're not splitting students in half. On an A day, you would run periods 1 through 4. And on a B day, we run periods 5, 6, 7 plus period 8 advisory. Now, what would advisory period look like? Well, we want to institute teacher to student mentoring. We also need to do some of our social emotional learning and training supports on those days. We can have class meetings during that time. We can provide for possible internship opportunities. This would also be a good time to address the learning gaps from last spring, as well as possibly provide some enrichment. So those are the changes that we're looking at right now. The entire back to school plan will be included in our back to school mailer, which we hope to have out by mid-August. And in it, you should be able to have a more detailed list of answers to questions. So until next time, please stay safe, stay healthy, and keep hoping for August 31st, face-to-face start of the school year.